Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Voices in My Head, the podcast where Basil Sands comes on and talks about audiobooks and all kinds of audiobooky stuff. Today is episode number 36. That's right, this is episode 36, which is one higher than 35 and one less than 37. Is 36 the only one that it could be in that numerical range? And today's special guest is the lovely and talented Ms. Emily Lawrence, that's right, and she is a wonderful audiobook narrator. She has kittens too. But she what? She has kittens. You got to see it. So just shut up and watch the show, because she has kittens. Oh, we love kittens. Yes, we do. So on with the show, Mr. Basil.
And today, we're here to discuss it with Emily Lawrence, who's an amazing narrator. She's got tons of titles out there. She's an actress in her own right in many ways. And welcome to the show, Emily.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, which coast are you on? I can't remember.
I'm in Los Angeles. I grew up in New York, but I live in Los Angeles now.
Got it. What drew you to Los Angeles?
I moved out here for film and television, actually, but I started doing audiobooks pretty soon after I got out here, and it just became a thing. I do film and television a little bit, but it's not really my focus anymore. So
what got you into audiobooks when you intended to go on to be a regular on-screen actress?
I took a workshop taught by the wonderful David Lawrence, the 17th or something, I forget.
He's on a couple of weeks.
Oh, cool. So I did a workshop with him that was basically an intro to voice acting, types of voice acting. And he had this little handout of like the different kinds of voice acting, and audiobooks was just on there. And I always loved to read. And obviously I loved acting. So it just seemed like a really perfect fit of two of my favorite things. And so David had a few recommendations about like a starter microphone and starter booth setup, and I just followed them and joined ACX, got my start there, and then been doing it full time ever since.
Very good. Very cool. Had you listened to audiobooks before that?
No, I hadn't, actually. I started listening to them around then, but I don't know if it just wasn't something that was like on my radar, I guess, because I feel like the audiobook industry has really boomed since then.
Definitely.
And I feel like back then it was kind of like not, I mean, like Audible, I feel like had just come out, and it was not something I was as aware of then. But then I immediately started listening to them all the time, and now I listen to like 6 a month probably.
Oh, wow.
1 or 2 a week, depending on the length, you know.
Right. Yeah, I do the same. I've been listening since the early 90s, and man, just love it.
Yeah.
Love audiobooks.
Yeah.
What kind of audiobooks do you like to listen to? And is that different from the audiobooks you like to perform?
Yes. So I look and sound very young, so I tend to do a lot of young adult titles, which is actually I do also like to read and listen to young adult. That's the only crossover. But in my spare time, I don't really listen to any romance, or I've been doing a lot of cozy mysteries. I don't really listen to that. Mostly, if I'm not listening to young adult, I'm listening to like sci-fi fantasy or literary fiction, like classics and things like that,
Right.
Which are generally narrated by older British people. So,
Yeah.
so unfortunately, I don't think I'll ever get to.
Well, you never know. You never know.
You never know.
Years, smoke some cigars and learn your British accent. Then you sound like an older British person.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of books you listen to and the kind of books you perform. Like you said, the younger general sound in there. Has there been a particularly favorite book or style of book that you like to perform more than anything else?
Yeah, I love performing first-person narratives. Just because I feel like you can sort of be more quirky with it. Like you can throw more personality and in it, whereas when it's third person, you're really supposed to be like a sort of objective presence as opposed to like the person who it's happening to. So you're like freaking out about whatever you're narrating. Like I just find that more fun to get more like emotional about it. And then I foster kittens, so they're sorry.
Oh, no apologies necessary, as long as it's not cutting you up with its claws as it climbs.
No,
I'm sure a lot of viewers would love to just watch the kids while we talk. So
here. Hello.
Oh, hi, baby. Hi, kitty. Ooh. See, I can pet.
He's up for adoption in 4 weeks if you live in Los Angeles.
I can pet a TV kitty. Because I'm allergic to them in life, but I can pet them on TV.
So what was the question? Let me think. I don't remember what we were talking about.
Oh, your preferred. The preferred type of performance. You said you like doing first.
Yeah, so I like first person. I like when it gets very angsty and dramatic. I find that fun. That, or I like smart and quirky. Those are like the two things that I've been enjoying the most. Smart and quirky, or angsty and dramatic. And
those can come from the same personality quite often.
They can. It
just depends on the mood and the weather.
Absolutely.
So living in eternally sunshiny LA, I'm sure it's a lot on the quirky side until the traffic crowds get bad.
Oof. Yeah. True.
So, do you see a difference, or were you involved in acting when you lived in New York?
Well, I went to NYU in New York, so I studied theater while I was there. And then I moved out here right after college, so I think I over that summer I did some professional plays, but I didn't stick around long enough to really have much of a theater career there. So
was there a noticeable difference in the actor climate or the theater feeling from place to place? What
absolutely. So New York is and I say this with total love because I am too, but New York is very pretentious. And in New York, it was like I went to NYU Tisch, which is, has one of the best reputations of an acting school. And, casting directors would be like, another Tisch kid, show me Juilliard. They were very, it wasn't like whether or not you went to acting school. It was like which school you went to was my experience. Whereas in LA, it's like, if you're in an acting class in some dinky little theater, you're way ahead of the curve. It's very different. There's LA is a lot more about and obviously this is not for voiceover, but in the film and TV world, there's a lot more focus on what you look like and who you know, and obviously who you know and what you look like is going to be important in New York too, but New York seems to care a lot about training and technique, whereas in LA it's kind of if you have that, then it's an added bonus, but it's not necessary to a lot of people's thinking.
First.
I'm sure I'm offending a million people by saying that, but
you can offend 1 million out of the 20 million between the two cities, so
sure,
no biggie. I offend a lot of people all the time. So so the acting, the feeling, as as opposed to the pretentiousness of New York and the pedigree, the necessary pedigrees in LA, is it more like if you got the skill, you're in?
Well, no, they're both very competitive markets just because there's so many people who pursue acting as a career, and it's very hard in both cities. It's just a different vibe. New York has more theater, and so it is more sort of the kinds of projects that they cast there are more highbrow, whereas in LA it's more television, but it's just as hard to land those parts. They're both very, very difficult. There really is, if you want to be a professional actor, there is no easy solution at all.
So in the various realms of professional acting, as you're describing it, where would you say audiobooks fit in on that scale of ease of getting jobs, fun job? In comparison, how do you compare audiobook acting to stage, television, movies?
Well, I mean, they're very different and they're definitely different skill sets. But in terms of ease of entry, um, I think I think lately, I mean, when I started years ago, I did my first audiobook within a few weeks of starting to audition, and within 6 months of that, it was my full-time job. I don't think that's the case nowadays when you first get started.
Right.
I think that the market, I think there's been a lot more attention on audiobooks, and the market has sort of boomed, and the competition has gotten a lot more fierce,
Oh yeah.
especially because it is relatively inexpensive. If you have $1,000, you can set up a booth. It's not, it,
Right.
it's obviously there's a lot of money spent on training and things like that, but it's not insurmountable. And because of ACX, there is no casting director to get started. You can just audition for whatever you want.
Right.
So a lot of the gatekeepers are out of the way with audiobooks. But it is still very competitive, and just like any acting job, it's hard and it's freelance, so it's hard to make it stable and
Right.
to make it a living. I mean, I don't know how easy it is to get started nowadays. When I got started, it felt a lot easier, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. The pool has gotten wider, not necessarily, the narrator pool or
Hmm.
wannabe narrator pool even has gotten a lot wider, but not necessarily deeper. There's the deep
Well,
stuff where you got the professionals, and then
yeah.
a lot of people vying to get over to that side of the pool.
Well, there's definitely a lot of work, and it's a much smaller field than, say, film or television or animation or whatever. But it is, because you can join the APA, the Audio Publishers Association. You can go to events, you can meet the casting directors and the producers. So it definitely has its bonuses. But if you're not, I mean, you probably know firsthand, if you're not in one of the major hubs of New York or LA, I imagine it's a lot more difficult to get those jobs because it's harder to meet people face to face.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of, you also have to love it because you do it all day long. If you're a film or TV actor, you can book a couple days a month and pay your bills. Audiobooks are not that.
Right.
You, in order to pay your monthly mortgage or whatever, you have to work almost every day.
Yeah,
So it's different in that way also.
it is very much so, very much so. The people in audiobooks, though, from what little exposure I've had to film and television and stage acting, the people in audiobooks do seem to be a lot less, as you said earlier, pretentious. Just
Yeah, I
friendly.
mean, I was shocked when I first started going to APA events, and like the producers and casting directors, you know, like if I go to a networking event for a film industry thing and I tell people I'm an actor, there's a lot of like, oh, another actor.
Mm.
But when I say to someone at Penguin Random House, oh, I'm a narrator, they go, oh, that's so great. What do you do? Like, what do you work on? And it's like, it was such a breath of fresh air that people like actually wanted to meet me and talk to me and
Yep,
felt that
yep.
as a storyteller I had something of value to add to the conversation, which as an actor in Hollywood is not the case for a lot of like directors and types like that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That is a fact. That is a fact. Speaking of the conferences and public or meeting events and stuff like that, what which ones do you like to go to?
You mean for
Like,
audiobook stuff?
yeah, audiobook stuff, APAC or FAFCon or
I mean, well, I've been to I go to all of the LA APA events, and I've been to APAC, going again this year. And I haven't really been to conventions much,
hmm,
but I really like it because everyone in audiobooks is super friendly. So it feels like, it doesn't feel like networking. It's like getting together with friends and talking about books. It's
hmm.
like really easy and awesome, and everyone's very nice.
Oh yeah,
Um, so it doesn't feel like networking so much. It's just hanging out, which I like.
yeah.
So yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Do you have any funny stories or any things that have happened to you while you were recording that you'd be willing to share?
While recording, I mean, there was one time that my mic was on mute and I didn't know, and I recorded for like 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
That's not funny. That was horrible.
It's funny in afterthought. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So I lost like a whole day of work, but that sucked.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I mostly just get entertained when my you know, when I'm like in the closet, like narrating something in like a funny man's voice, and like, somebody's in the other room and they hear me. Like, I just get, telling people that I spend all day talking to myself in funny voices. It's I think the whole job is kind of funny, but
Yeah. How is your booth set up? Describe your booth setup.
well, right now I have like a homemade booth where I have a walk-in closet that I've covered with acoustic foam,
Mm.
and I have a Rode NT1A mic, and so that's basically what it is now. I'm actually going to be buying a vocal booth from Vocal Booth
Oh,
shortly. I'm in the process of actually buying a house right now, so I'm waiting to see where my house is so that I can give them the delivery location.
yeah, yeah.
But I'm really excited for that.
Oh,
Because I have good sound in my booth. I don't have good sound isolation from outside sources. So I live near the Burbank airport, and every time an airplane flies over, I have to pause and wait for it to go away, and
you got to like stop
things
every
like
5 minutes or take a breath every 5 minutes.
I feel like it's like every 20 minutes. It's a very small airport, but it's still very frustrating. And then the wall shares the wall with my neighbor's bathroom. So if they ever take a shower when they get home from work or something, I have to stop for like half an hour,
Oh, yeah.
So I'm excited to have a real booth.
Well, I tell you,
shortly.
it's a lot of, it makes a big difference if you can get it.
Yeah.
And it starts to feel like, hey, this is an actual office. This is where I work versus this is where I hang my clothes and work. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
What is your long-term goal in audiobook narration? Let me rephrase that. Is there a specific title or two that you would like to do someday?
I would love to narrate more literary fiction, or even just. So I just narrated this book for. When does this come out?
It's going to come out, let me see, probably in June, maybe early July.
Okay, good. So I just narrated this book that will be out by then, for Simon and Schuster. That was it was just a beautiful book that was about these two sisters twin sisters whose mother has Huntington's, and they take the genetic test to see if they'll get it. And my character, I don't want to ruin that for listeners. One character tests positive and one character tests negative, and they sort of, it's like dealing with the aftermath of of this diagnosis. And it was just such a good book. Like, it was about a real issue. It was about, people dealing with things that are like really important, and it was very unique. And so I just love books that like feel meaningful, like they're, talking about, I love a good love story too. I mean, don't get me wrong. I just, stuff that makes, like, when I decided to become an actor, or the reason that I wanted to be an artist was to tell stories that help us, teach us what it's like to be human, about like the human experience, these shared things that we all have in common, even if they're not the details of our life. And just stories that I feel like contribute to that understanding. And I would love to do more of those, and just things that feel like they have something really important to say. It makes me feel like I'm part of like this larger universe,
Right.
So I would like to get to a point in my career where I'm doing more of that than not. And then, I wouldn't mind winning like Audis or something. That'd be cool.
That's always in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Not if, it's when. When's mine coming? When do you get that right title?
I mean, I don't know if it'll ever happen, but like it'd be nice, to have recognition from colleagues and whatever. But yeah, I mean, as long as I get to keep making my living telling stories for the rest of my life, I'll consider it a job well done.
Very good. If you weren't an actress, what do you think you would be?
My backup plan was to be a history teacher or a literature teacher, but I leaned more towards history.
Oh, that's pretty much in the same vein. That's a good doable thing.
Yeah, well, it's doable until you get to a certain age where going back to graduate school feels untenable, and
That's a good point.
and also, I mean, my sister happens to be an English teacher, and dealing with like parents and um, school bureaucracy sounds kind of like a headache.
Yeah.
I if there are any teachers listening to this, I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
But that was my like, what?
So we appreciate you, but we'll stick to acting.
Well, that was my like, if I wanted to have something stable, that was my like backup plan. And I also considered being a psychiatrist or a psychologist at one point, but I don't know. I think at this point, audiobooks have like ruined me for other jobs. Like I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could go back to having to work in an office and not wearing pajamas all day, and
That would be very difficult indeed.
it's spoiled me. Really, it has.
Well, shoot. Come up with something to say while I think about something to ask you.
Okay. I can just show the kitten some more.
Just show the kitten. More kitten. More kitten. So you say you foster kittens?
I do. I foster
Abandon
kittens.
ones until someone can adopt them?
I foster them from the LA Animal Services, the local shelter.
Okay.
Basically, you cannot adopt a kitten until it's 8 weeks old.
Ah.
And so they need people to hold on to the kittens until they're of adopting age. And generally, the reason is because if they're a litter of kittens, they want them to stick together until they're old enough to be separated. But this one happens to just be on his own, so.
Ah. He's the singular cat.
He's all by himself.
Yeah. Poor
But
baby.
yeah, I started fostering last year because I felt like I needed to give back to the world more, because I live a pretty wonderful life. I mean, I work from home. I make a living doing my art. I have wonderful friends and family and people that support me, and so I felt like that I needed to give back more. And having kittens in my house all the time seemed like a really great way to do that.
That's pretty cool. That's a very good way to do it, and a relatively safe way to do it, except
Yeah.
cleaning up after the kittens sometimes.
They do kind of make a mess, and it's really hard to bring them back because we have them for like a month at a time. So it's like when sometimes you get really attached, and I think I've cried every time I've had to bring them back. What?
Usually have like a whole litter together.
Sometimes, yeah, I've had as many as 4 at once,
Wow.
and yeah, they're very sweet. Some of them are annoying. Some of them it's like, please take it back. But some of them are very sweet.
Wow, that's pretty. That's honorable. I like that. I like that.
Oh, thank you.
Very cool. I had another question. Right. Oh, here it comes. What advice would you give to a narrator just starting in the business? Maybe they got 2 or 3 titles on ACX and they're like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Well, I have a few different. It depends on where this person is in their career. If there's someone who has minimal to no training, either as an actor, specifically for theater, because I feel like film and television training is a little different. But if you're someone who doesn't have experience working with text, such as theater, like Shakespeare, or voiceover, just if you're not someone who's used to that skill set, then I would definitely recommend taking courses. And I would recommend taking audiobook specific courses if that's your intended trajectory. There's a host of great teachers out there that you can find resources on. And it's it people think that it's as easy as just sitting down and reading a book.
Right.
It's not. There's a lot to it, and it's something that you have to be able to do. Sort of, you have to be able to get to a point where you're not thinking about it. You're just doing it intuitively. Because if you're thinking about it, then you're taking away from the performance, and if you're making too many mistakes, then you're not going to be monetizing your time well enough.
Right. Right.
So if you really want to make a career out of it, then you have to make sure you develop your skills. If you're at a point where your skills are rock solid and you're, rocking it on ACX and you want to join the major publisher realm, then my advice is to join the APA and go to events. Is kind of the best way that I've found. So I went to APAC and other APA events, and then started working for a bunch of different people that I'd met. It's kind of, you have to have good networking skills, but it's kind of that easy. You just meet people and you develop a relationship with them, and then they think of you when they're casting something, and then you do a good job on that and they think of you for something else, and it kind of, you can gain momentum with that, but meeting the right people is sort of the first step to that.
Very cool. Well, my roommates, my leprechauns, would like to come up and ask you a couple of questions and provide a scenario for you.
Okay.
Brace yourself. They may have had a few loggers already today, so we don't know how this is going to go. Hey, boys. How's Mr. Sands? Come on up here. Don't step on. Oh, okay, you stepped on that. Come in. Okay, we're here, Mr. Basil. Oh, hey, look, that's Emily Lawrence. We saw her picture on Facebook the other day when you were talking about doing this stuff. Hey, Emily, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, good. My name is Feely. I'm the oldest of the Leprechaun Brothers. I'm Feely. This is my brother, Neely. He's the next oldest. Hi, how you doing, Emily? And this is my brother, Buffin. He's the dumb one. What? Oh, hi, Emily. And this is our brother, Bertold. He's the youngest. He's only like about 120. The rest of us, we're a little bit more mature. He's still like a kid. Yeah, but I study a lot. So, hi, Emily, Mrs. Lawrence. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So we have a couple of questions for you. I'm trying to figure out the origin of the name Emily. Do you know?
I do, actually. It's the feminine form of Emile, which is a French name that means rival.
Oh, you got enemies?
I must. I'm someone's rival. I may not be aware of them.
This is like a Last Jedi kind of thing. Your
Yeah.
name is the rival. That means someone else is what would the other word be? The other name, they must be the rival, maybe. A rival. Yeah, that's what it would mean. Okay. Well, anyway, that was my first question. I was just curious about that. I met a man named Emile once from France. He ate snails, and we were no longer friends after that.
Because of the snails, or?
Well, they looked like snot that he was eating, and that's just not. I can't get the picture out of my head. They were like squiggling and stuff. Ugh. Maybe he
It's a little
should.
judgmental. They might have been delicious.
Oh, that could be. That could be. Very well could be. Okay. Buffin, didn't you have a question to ask? Yeah. So we're going to give you a scenario, a thing
Okay.
that you can figure your way into or out of. Okay.
Okay.
So you are flying on an airplane, and suddenly a UFO comes up beside you, and a little gate goes over to the emergency door, and they open the door while you're up there in the air, way up in the sky. But the pressure it doesn't decompress. You don't go get sucked out of the plane like most people would. Everything stays normal. And then this guy in a shiny silver suit walks up to you, and he says, Emily Lawrence, you are the rival. You must come and meet the one you are rivaled for. So, what is your reaction? Are you going to be willing to go with him? Oh, and he's kind of cute, but he smells like beer, alien beer.
Good expensive alien beer, I should say.
I mean, like, do I have a choice? Is this like they're gonna kill me if I don't go, or?
No, he's just gonna be highly disappointed and fly back to his planet and, I don't know, maybe crash because of the beer.
I mean, yeah, I guess I'd be curious to meet my rival. As long as it's not like a life-threatening situation. Like if I have to duel them, then I'd
What if
probably
it turns out
lose.
that it's
So
like your rival is like the exact opposite you in another dimension, and she's also a narrator, but you both like the same stories, and so now you're competing against yourself to get the same book.
that sounds like life. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds like my life too, all these voices and stuff. So anyway, if you had a choice to live, and here's another question from me. This is Bertolt, by the way, in case you can't see me. The other question is, if you could live in any other place in the world except where you live right now, and your husband can be with you, and you can take your favorite cat too, where would you like to be?
I mean, to live, I'd probably go back to New York and be close with my family.
Hmm.
But, you know, that's not like if it was the question of like where would you visit, that's different. There's lots of places I'd like to go, but for living, I'd probably want to stay
Where would you
there.
live for like a 5 to 7 year stint?
I lived in Prague I did a semester in Prague in college. And that's my favorite place I've ever lived
Hmm.
as a city, so probably there.
You know, when we were little leprechaun kids, our brother Buffin, he couldn't pronounce the word P. And so he was the first one to discover the city of Prague on the map, except he pronounced it frog because he got P and F confused. And so my whole life, as I was a kid, I grew up thinking there was a city named Frog in Australia. I was like, what? No, no. And I learned as I was an adult that Frog isn't a city, but Prague, and it's not in Australia. It's
No,
wherever it's at.
Czech Republic.
Yes, the Czech Republic.
Mhm.
So anyway, well, those were very good answers to our questions. Much better than I expected, since we were kind of making the questions up as we went along. But you know how that goes in this industry. Mr. Basil says that the one nicest thing about narrating is that he doesn't have to memorize his script or make stuff up for hours on end as he goes, but he makes stuff up anyway. So anyhow, that's the way it goes. So, well, do you guys have any more questions, or are you just going to keep chatting? Well, I don't know. Do you have any more questions? Well, I've got a question for you. This is Neely again. Do you like bagels?
I do like bagels.
Is that because you're growed up in New York, or you just like naturally like them? Because I love bagels with the cream,
I mean,
the salmon, and all that stuff.
quite possibly. New York bagels are, when I go home, bagels and whitefish salad is like my treat when I go home because I can't find it to my liking out here in California.
Interesting. I've never
It's
heard.
very much like a New York Jewish thing, really, I think.
We'll have to try that next time we're there, guys. Oh yeah, that whitefish salad sounds really good. It's
It's
not like,
delicious.
what kind of fish is it? Just whitefish?
Whitefish. I think whitefish is like a general term for a lot of different kinds of fish. I never really looked into what kind of fish it was. It's
Whatever
just
they happen to catch that day that they can, it's either white or they bleached it out, one way or the other.
something like that. But it's delicious.
Very good. Okay, well, we got to get back in the house. We were actually playing a game of rugby in the living room. You were what? We'll fix the lamp, don't worry. Okay, we're leaving. Bye.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, bye. By the way, that's a cute cat. I love cats. Ow, don't hit me. Thank you. That was the boys, and they really appreciated that conversation. Thank you very much. And thank you for being on the show. It's been great chatting with you. Where can people find you on the internets?
Well, I have a Twitter, which is Emily Lawr, Lawr. I'm on Facebook, Emily Lawrence fan page, and Instagram, emilylawrence.actor. I couldn't get the same one on all three, so they're all different. And then I have a website, emilylawrence.com, where you can listen to samples of my work and things like that. And I think that's it. Those are the main spots.
Very good. And people will be going that way. All those addresses popped up on the screen here, that they'll be able to see them and go right to them and check you out, listen to your work. And I hope you have an awesome and wonderful long career ahead of you. And
Thank you. I hope you do also.
Oh yeah. Well, you have a lot longer time left than I do.
Well, I hope I get to, last that long.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. All right. Thank you very much for being on the show, and we'll see you later.
Well, that was episode number 36 of Voices in My Head with the lovely Miss Emily Lawrence and her kitten. And this is Gerald the Troll. And if you like this show, please hit the subscribe button down at the bottom. So that way you always get notified if there's another show coming up. Because there's going to be a lot more shows coming up. Because like Basil pre-recorded like a whole caboodle and stuff of them. So anyway, yeah, hit the subscribe button down below and you'll always know when we're coming up. And this is copyright 2018, Sandman Production Studios of Alaska and Basil Sands and all that stuff. And this is Gerald the Troll saying, kittens are wonderful and not just for breakfast anymore. Goodbye.